Hey friends, welcome back to the Lifestyle School podcast. I am your host, Hope Plack. I am a certified nutritionist, coach, and creator of the Lifestyle School for Weight Loss course. If you're new here to this podcast, we are all about simplifying healthy living, understanding your body, improving your metabolic health, and creating a lifestyle that actually supports the life that you want to live at a healthy weight and with like the most vibrant health. And today we're talking about something that I think a lot of people struggle with. And a lot of times I think we silently struggle with it because we can feel alone or there can feel shame around it when we really shouldn't. But that is, why is it so hard to lose weight and actually keep it off, right? Why can, we lose 20 pounds only to gain back 30? Why do we feel like we're constantly fighting with our body to get to a healthy weight, right? We're supposed to be healthy. We're supposed to be at a healthy weight. Why does this feel like such a battle? Why does weight loss often feel easier at the beginning and then suddenly become incredibly difficult? And why does it feel like your body fights harder and harder the more weight you lose? Um, and here is like a really, I think, uncomfortable truth that I think we wrestle with, especially because I don't know that the vast majority of people truly understand how the body works and how weight loss is meant to work because of the messaging that we've gotten for years and years and years. And it's this, that, your body isn't stupid. It's not dumb. Your body's not trying to sabotage you, although I know it feels like it. And I've been there. And what's truly happening when we feel this way on our weight loss journey is that our body is trying to survive. And unfortunately, modern weight loss approaches, I think, work directly against our biology instead of with it, with like hand in hand in harmony with it. So today we're going to unpack the physiology, psychology, and hormonal reality behind weight loss. And we're going to talk about things about like how our body just responds to dieting in general. Why does your metabolism slow down when you're dieting? Why do you always feel more hungry? We're going to talk briefly about the Minnesota Starvation study that was done after World War II and what it revealed about dieting. I think it's super interesting. We're going to talk about the difference between calorie restriction and fasting because there is a vast difference. We're going to talk about body set weight, which is essentially your body's weight thermostat. So, like, why does it seem like my body is fighting me to stay at this unhealthy high weight versus, helping me stay at this healthy weight? It doesn't make sense. You're like, make it make sense. And then how to actually reset your metabolism for sustainable fat loss. And my goal with this episode is not to like feed into this hopelessness that you probably feel or frustration. It's actually the opposite, of course. I want you to understand your body so that you can stop blaming yourself for these failed attempts at weight loss. Because once you understand what's actually happening physiologically, you can stop fighting yourself, stop fighting your body, and you can start building a strategy that actually works long term for healthy weight loss. And that is my whole goal today. I'm really excited about this episode. And before we get into the details of today, if you're wanting help creating a sustainable lifestyle that's going to support your weight loss goals, your metabolic health, I want to invite you to check out my course, Lifestyle School for Weight Loss. Inside the program, I teach people how to lose weight without obsessively counting calories forever. Like, you don't even have to count calories at all if you don't want to, which I think is very unique about this program. We talk about how to use fasting strategically as a powerful tool to reset your body set weight to work with your biology versus kind of against it. And then how to improve insulin sensitivity and how to build habits that actually last. Because all of these things put together are what's going to help you be successful long term. I've seen this in my own life and with my clients over and over again. I also offer some one-on-one coaching in conjunction with the course if you want some like personalized plans, if you want some hand holding, if you want some accountability. We can take things much deeper when we're working one-on-one. So if you're interested in that, check it out on my website, www.hopeplackcoaching.com. And then as a reminder, guys, before we get into this episode and a little other housekeeping, I always want to remind you that this podcast is for educational purposes only. It's not intended as medical advice. Always consult with your healthcare provider before making any major changes to your diet, fasting routine, supplements, or exercise, especially if you have any major underlying health concerns. And then you guys, I would love it. I would love, love, love it if you would go over on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you're watching, hit that subscribe to my channel button, leave me a quick review, share this episode with a friend. That helps me get the word about this out about this podcast. You guys, I'm trying to be so much better about getting onto Instagram and like posting once a week. But it's still so hard. Trying to get on like my stories or whatnot. So if you want to follow along too, I'm on my own weight loss journey. I'll give you guys a little update here in a second. You can follow along on hopeplackcoaching.com, either on Facebook or Instagram. Yeah, and I want to give you guys a little update because, I'm on my own weight loss journey, and it's one inspired by my fourth pregnancy. And, I was like reflecting on this the other day. It's like, I feel like it was my fourth and hardest pregnancy by far, and I gained so much weight. And usually I have about 30 pounds to lose after, like I can like start embarking on the weight loss portion of my postpartum journey. But this time I have like 50, maybe even a little bit more, depending how lean I want to get. And it just feels like this mountain, and it's a lot. And I'm, as of today, actually, in the recording of this podcast, I'm 3 weeks into my journey. My first week, I dropped like just over 5 pounds, and I was like, this is amazing. Maybe this will be like super rapid weight loss. And of course, dun dun dun, you guys, are you ready? The sheen has worn off after 3 weeks. The weight loss has slowed down. And I am happy to say that as of this morning, actually, I hit that 10-pound mark of weight loss, which I'm celebrating. I feel very excited about it. It was actually really encouraging because this last week, I feel like has been just like, reality setting in of I have a lot of work to do. I have a lot of work ahead of me. And weight loss isn't easy. Like it is work, even if you're doing it like intelligently with like working in hand with your body and how it's meant to work. It still takes time. It still takes work. It still takes confronting a lot of uncomfortable things about yourself, right? Like I think the process of losing weight and fasting specifically, there's a reason why fasting is used in like in religious practices, like amongst like I think all religions, right? It's very self-revealing when you fast. It just shows, it's like looking in a mirror when you're naked and you're like, oh, you can't hide from anything. It's like very revealing. And it allows really deep self-scrutiny, which is really good. Like it's a beautiful, transformative process, but that doesn't mean it's comfortable. And I would say this last week, I feel like my feet are hitting the pavement of like, okay, I need to like settle in and get comfortable being uncomfortable because yeah, this is just like, I'm not going to be done anytime soon. Like usually at this point I hit 30 pounds down, I'm like a third of the way done. Well, guys, I am maybe a fifth of the way done. So I have, just a long road ahead of me. And then, like the weight loss has slowed down. You feel like you have to work harder for every pound, versus like that initial big jump of weight loss. And so, yeah, I feel like overall this morning I feel encouraged because, I did hit that 10-pound mark. I'm realizing, weight loss, I'm re-realizing it. There's nothing like being in the moment on your own journey to like sit with the struggle of it. But I'm realizing too, the journey of weight loss isn't sexy. It's not like exciting. It's not thrilling. It's just literally showing up every day and choosing what I want for my future. Like I had this moment, I was talking to someone, I don't even remember who I was talking to, but I was like, is like, I am not okay living at this weight because I have a lot of life left to live. I'm only 35 and I want to live it well. And like the inflammation and the pain that I feel relative to being 40 pounds overweight, is not okay with me. Like I want to be able to easily stand up off the floor and not feel creaky. And I know that's not going to happen if I'm carrying around 40 extra pounds of weight on my knees and my ankles because I can actually feel that. And it's just something I refuse to live with. And so I think like for me, reconnecting with why am I doing this? One, I want to feel good. One, I want to look good. And I want to be able to live the life that I want. And so remembering these things, reconnecting with my why, and then just like trying to settle into this is my new routine, making it automatic, trying to set up some guardrails in my life, to make this easier for myself. I'm not trying to make it harder, in regards to like my planning and where I'm putting my focus. And so, yeah, like this week, we're getting together with a family and we're going to go to Top Golf. We're going to, hit some golf balls. I'm sure there's going to be appetizers there that are going to be, probably tempting. It's not a fasting day for me. And then we invited them over to our house for pizza after. The pizza will be tempting because I have a soft spot for pizza. And I think another thing that I'm relearning, on this journey as well is, like it's not going to look perfectly. Like I've already failed a bunch of times in this last 3 weeks of like doing things where like that wasn't like perfectly on plan. It's not really in line with my goals to like have cake or to have pizza. Um, but so they're not, I want to rephrase this. It's not in line with like my end goal, like eating a bunch of pizza, eating a bunch of cake. But I need to relearn how to coexist with, I not relearn because I wouldn't say I was ever like super off the rails, but I need to redefine my relationship with like these foods of, I can have a couple bites of cake and it's not the end of the world and I can enjoy it and then I can move on with my life. Or I can have maybe one piece of pizza and be like, oh wow, that tasted really good. And now I'm going to go like, well, first, hopefully I would have it after like my protein, right? And my fiber. And have that at the end, but I'm going to have one piece and like I can be okay with that. And so there's like also a part of this of redefining and relearning our relationship with food. And, that's something I'm constantly working on because I'm human and I don't have it all figured out. However, I have been on this journey for a really long time, like a decade. And so, things get, I will say, easier. It becomes easier to do these things the longer you just keep at it. And so I want to encourage you with that. If you're newer to your journey, if maybe things aren't going exactly the way that you want them to go, that's okay because you're redefining who you are. You're relearning, these patterns and thinking, of doing, and it takes time. But the more you just keep showing up day after day after day and just being like, I'm worth it. Like I'm going to do this for me because it's what I want for myself and my long-term health. You're going to find yourself down the road being like, oh, this is not as hard as it once was. So with that, guys, I'm down 10 pounds. I'm feeling really excited about it, but I'm also like, okay, we got to keep grinding. We got to keep putting one foot in front of the other. And that is life, right? Just in general, with anything. So, my life update. Let's see here. Oh, one last thing. Want to mention my supplement store is open, you guys. If you want to support this podcast, this is the easiest way to do it. If you're buying supplements, switch over where you get them to my store. I'm just going to say it because it's true. That would be the best way you can support the show, as well as, obviously sharing it with a friend. But if you're wanting high quality supplements that are tested for quality and purity, this is where to get them. They're third party tested. And unfortunately, I always tell everyone I talk to and work with, if we're talking about supplements, like don't waste your money on supplements from Whole Foods, Amazon, any of these places, because many like supplements aren't FDA regulated. And so there's a huge issue with people buying supplements and like the ingredients listed on there looks great, but what's actually in the supplements are anything but. I would say actually the worst place you could buy supplements is actually Amazon, of all the places, but all of them, like there's been, supplements pulled from shelves from places like CVS, Walgreens, Target, nutrition stores. And then these parties test what's actually in these supplements. And they're like, oh, there's actually like sawdust in here, or there's like remnants of like, shellfish or, like allergens and a bunch of issues. So don't waste your money on crappy, cheap supplements. Get the good stuff, get stuff that is third party tested. Professional grade products. I did a whole episode on this because I'm very passionate about people. If you're going to spend your money, spend it well on things that are actually going to help you. And so I did episode 43 on my core four supplement recommendations, and I kind of get into the nitty gritty details about like the supplement industry, which is very convoluted. But I talk about the core four supplements that I recommend and why they matter for metabolic health in that episode. So if you want to start taking supplements, you guys, I'm rambling. I recognize that. If you want to start taking supplements, you don't know where to start, you can check out that episode, or if you're just interested on my take on supplements. But if you do want to kind of switch over, buy some supplements from me, you head over to my website, www.hopeplatcoaching.com. In the top right corner, there's a tab that will say store. Click on that. That will take you to the supplement store. And then you will need a code to create an account and order through me. And that code is 104567. 104567. I will do my best to remember to put that in the show notes. Yeah, and you can order from me, support this podcast, so I can keep putting out, these free educational episodes that I really hope support you, and help you and encourage you on your own weight loss and health journey. Because, it's hard enough to do by yourself. Let's do it together. Okay, guys, I'm done rambling. Let's get into today's episode because I'm actually really excited about this episode because I feel like it's resonating for just even myself and, where I'm at on my own journey. Okay, I'm going to take a quick sip of my electrolyte drink here and then we're going to get into it. You guys, so good. Okay. So, for a very long time, probably decades, we've been told that, weight loss is simple. And I know what I'm going to say next, right? Just eat less and move more, like all the fitness bros and girls and on Instagram, Facebook, wherever you're at, they're just yelling at you, "Oh, you're overweight." Well, you're eating too much and you're not moving enough. Get it through your skull. And on the surface, it sounds logical. It's like simple math, right? You reduce calories, your body should use stored energy. And yes, technically energy balance matters, but this advice is like so simplistic and it ignores that the human body is extremely adaptive, right? It's not like a closed loop system. There we go. Your metabolism isn't a static calculator. Your body responds to what you do, right? And your body is incredibly intelligent. Like, let's give our body some credit here. And when your body senses prolonged energy deprivation, it starts making adjustments, right? And that's because your body's number one job is not to make you lean. I hate to break it to you. Your body's number one job isn't the six-pack abs that you want. That number one job of your body is keeping you alive. And throughout human history, food scarcity has been a real threat. And our body was intelligently designed to survive, and we have these survival mechanisms to protect against starvation. It's pretty incredible. And the problem is that many modern diets, though, accidentally trigger those survival responses. And when that happens, people often interpret these biological responses as, like a personal failing of like, I just don't have what it takes to lose weight. But in reality, it's not failure. It's literally your body's built-in response to keep you alive when it recognizes that food is scarce. And so, when most people try to lose weight, they slash calories, right? We start eating tiny meals. We go for the low fat yogurt, rice cakes, salad with barely any protein. We're trying to keep those calories down. Maybe we start doing a ton of cardio and initially, right, we lose weight. But then something happens, right? You start to feel sluggish. Your energy drops. You start thinking about food constantly. You start to crave things intensely, and weight loss totally slows and then eventually just stalls altogether. And you're like, what is this? Like, why am I not losing any weight? I'm miserable. I'm cold. I have no energy. I'm thinking about food 24/7. And then eventually for most people, they regain the weight. And why is that? Well, first of all, you're like death gripping you're like death gripping, like trying to like keep these calories low because all you can do is think about food. But the real reason is because your body adapts, right? One of the biggest things that happens is metabolic adaptation. Your body becomes more energy efficient with fewer calories. You burn fewer calories because your body becomes more energy efficient because it knows calories have been reduced and they're staying low. So you subconsciously move less. Your body lowers non-essential energy expenditure. And this is why people often experience things like fatigue, cold hands and feet, brain frog. Goodness, guys, brain fog, lower motivation, things like lower libido, mood changes, sleep disruption, increased hunger. The body is trying to conserve energy. And then we have the hormonal side of things, right? Your ghrelin, which is your hunger hormone, it rises higher and higher and higher. And you're just like, my stomach will not stop growling. I'm so hungry all the time. But then at the same time, as that hunger increases, your leptin, your satiety hormone, like what makes you feel like, oh, like I'm good, I don't need to eat anymore, drops, right? So it's like this awful increased hunger, lower satiety, food becomes more rewarding, your cravings are just intensifying, your brain becomes more and more food focused, and you're like, it's impossible. Weight loss is it's never going to work. Like I am crazy to think that I could possibly do this. But you guys, I just want you to get this point. This is not your body broken in some way. Your body is beautifully, intelligently designed. Your body was meant to do this for your survival. Your body is trying to protect you from perceived starvation. And so there is actually nothing wrong with you and your ability to lose weight. There is something wrong with your method. Okay. And so we're going to talk about a better method, but I just want you to know like that it makes total sense why your body is responding this way. So there's nothing wrong with you. I want to talk to you guys real quick about the Minnesota Starvation Study. It's one of the most fascinating studies I think ever done on this topic. It was done in the 1940s after World War II. And honestly, I think it explains so much about modern dieting. So what happened is researchers wanted to understand the physical and physical and psychological effects of starvation so that they could better help people recovering from famine around the world because it was a major issue after World War II. And the participants were healthy young men. And that is important here, is that these men were not like actually starving to death. They were actually eating 1,500 calories a day. And, now for many women listening, you might hear that and think like, oh, that sounds like a normal amount of calories. But remember, these are active young men. So for them, this is a massive caloric deficit. And researchers reduced their calories for about 6 months in this study. And what happened was actually profound. First, their metabolism slowed significantly. Their body temperature dropped. Their heart rates slowed. They became exhausted. Many became physically weak. But what's even more fascinating were the psychological changes that were observed. These men became obsessed with food. They were constantly thinking about food. They talked about food. They read recipes. They collected cookbooks. They dreamt about food. Some developed binge eating behaviors. Some became depressed, anxious, emotionally distressed. And some even like became socially withdrawn. Some lost interest in relationships. And the craziest part, these symptoms happened in psychologically healthy people simply from prolonged caloric restriction. I'm going to say that again. These symptoms happened in psychologically healthy people, and this was simply triggered by prolonged caloric restriction. And I think this is a really important point because so many people today think that they lack discipline because they can't stop thinking about food while they're dieting. But the Minnesota Starvation Study shows that food obsession can actually be a biological response to chronic undereating. And your body becomes hyper focused on survival, right? And this is exactly why so many chronic dieters, I think, feel really trapped because they're constantly trying to override their like body's biological response with willpower. And that's just not going to happen, right? There's just like so few people who have that kind of willpower. And I want to be really clear that the study is not saying that all fat loss is dangerous. It's showing that what I believe it's showing is that modern methods, um, it's showing us that sorry, my brain, it's showing us that you like the method. You guys, why can't I get this out? It's showing us that the method matters, and it's showing us that chronic underfeeding has consequences with it. And then it also um, is probably why many people regain weight after dieting, right? Because after prolonged restriction, hunger hormones remain elevated with metabolic rate remaining suppressed for a period of time. And, depending on how long you've been under eating, that time is really going to vary by like how long your metabolism stays suppressed. And so the body is essentially screaming like, eat more food, eat more food. And then every morsel of food that comes in, it's like, store it as energy for later, store it as fat. And yeah, that is how your body was made. And so when we are chronically under eating, this is essentially like what we're triggering. And I want all the women to hear that because I think there's a huge epidemic of women under eating. And if this is like ringing true for you, I hope this like the alarm bells are going off in your brain of like, oh, I need to do something different. And so now, this is where we need to have, I think, a very important conversation because not all energy deficits are interpreted the same by the body. Okay. There is a major difference between chronic caloric restriction and strategic fasting. When chronic calorie restriction, when someone does that, many people are eating small amounts of food constantly throughout the day. So maybe 6 tiny meals. Typically, they're constantly snacking because you feel so hungry, but they're having tiny portions because they're trying to keep their calories low. But what's happening is insulin is still being stimulated every time that food hits your mouth, right? Your pancreas is saying, oh, food's coming in, our blood sugar's going up, we got to produce more insulin. The body is still sensing that incoming food, and the body responds by lowering energy expenditure. But fasting works differently, okay? Because during a fast, rather than constantly stimulating insulin, there's no stimulation of insulin if you're doing it well. Insulin drops significantly, and when insulin drops, that is when the body gains a greater access to that stored body fat because we have to remember body fat is stored energy. And it needs to be used, right? And many people don't ever give their body a chance to use that stored energy because we keep that insulin high. But we lower insulin, our body's like, oh, we can go to that stored fat for energy. And remember, a pound of body fat contains roughly 3,500 calories of stored energy. That's a lot, right? That's like a couple days worth of meals. So if someone has excess, there we go, excess body fat, their body has energy reserves available. And that is incredibly important because when the body can adequately access that stored fuel, it doesn't necessarily need to suppress metabolism to the same degree. In fact, during shorter fast, some studies show that metabolic rate can actually temporarily increase, and that's due to counter-regulatory hormones increasing during fasting. Things like norepinephrine, growth hormone, glucagon, and these hormones help maintain things like alertness and energy, blood sugar stability, fat mobilization, and guys, listen to this, muscle preservation. Fasting isn't, you're not going to eat away your muscle when you're fasting if you have a bunch of stored body fat available. It's just not going to happen. Now, again, I want to be balanced here. Fasting is an incredible tool, but, it's not magic. You can't fast your way out of eating a highly processed food diet. I got to put words in an order that makes sense, guys. We can't fast our way out of eating highly processed foods all day long, right? We got to make sure we're eating real whole foods. Like sleep still matters, stress matters, protein matters, our muscle mass still matters. But fasting can be a powerful tool because it works more it works in relationship with the way our body was created to work, right? Instead of against it. Humans were created with periods of fasting and feasting in mind, not this constant grazing from sunrise to bedtime on things like Cheetos and Mountain Dew or Gatorade, right? Or like sugary coffee drinks, and sourdough bread 24/7. Although, oh, guys, sourdough bread is so good. I went through a phase of making it and I had to stop because I could sit down and eat a whole loaf, especially right out of the oven. Anyways, guys, I'm getting distracted. So like that's just not the way that we weren't created to be eating from sunrise to sunset. And one of the biggest problems I think in our modern society is that many people are never allowed they never allow their insulin to come down. They're constantly in storage mode with elevated insulin. We eat breakfast, then we have a snack, and then we have our sugary coffee drink, then we have another snack, and then we have lunch, and then we snack, and then dinner, and then dessert, and then a late night bedtime snack. And the body, I mean, it truly never gets a break. We were talking about this more in detail, I think 2 weeks ago or last week, I think. And over time, this contributes heavily to insulin resistance because your pancreas just never gets a break. It's constantly pumping out insulin. And now I want to talk about body set weight because I think this is like such an interesting topic. And I think people don't understand that like our body has a body set weight and like what that is. So I think this concept really changes everything once you understand it. Your body tends to defend a weight range, not an exact number per se, but a general range. And your brain, your hormones, your metabolism, and your nervous system all work together to maintain that range. Think of it like your body's weight thermostat. If your house thermostat is set to like 72 degrees, the system works to maintain that temperature, right? Turning on the air conditioning as it needs to, or the heat. Your body does something similar with body fat. And one of the major control centers involved in this process is the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus receives information about things like how much insulin do you have? What's your leptin, which is your hunger, your satiety, hormone signaling? What is the nutrient availability right now? How is your stress? How is your sleep? How much inflammation do we have circulating? What do our energy stores have? Like how much body fat do we have? And based on all that information, it helps regulate things like our hunger, our energy expenditure, which is our metabolism, our reproductive hormones, thyroid activity, body temperature, and fat storage. And the problem is that our modern environment pushes this set weight higher and higher and higher. And, if you have been at a high body weight for a very long time, you probably understand like how hard it is to shift that down to something lower and to keep it there. Because the longer we're at a higher weight, the more our body is accepting that as like where homeostasis is happiest. Things like ultra processed foods, constant eating, poor sleep, chronic stress, inflammation, having a sedentary lifestyle, emotional eating, having dopamine dysregulation, all of these things can contribute to the body defending a higher weight as normal, right? And so when someone tries to lose weight, whether slowly or rapidly, the body fights back. And it's not because your body hates you, although it feels like it in the moment, right? It's because your body believes it's protecting you. So the question then becomes, well, how do we then show the body that we need to lose weight for our health, for our own protection, right? And that's where the good news comes in, is that your body set weight is not completely fixed. It can change, but here's the thing, guys, unfortunately, it usually changes slowly. And I think this is where a lot of people get really frustrated because most people want fast results. I want fast results, as you heard earlier, but sustainable metabolic healing takes time. So how do we lower our body set weight? Well, number one is we have to improve our insulin sensitivity. This is huge. It's like cannot be overlooked. You have to understand insulin, how it works, because chronically elevated insulin strongly signals the body to store energy. So Doing things to lower insulin are going to be really effective. Things like time restricted eating, which means like no snacking, intermittent fasting, reducing your intake of ultra processed foods, walking after a meal for better blood sugar regulation, building muscle via strength training, and then, having your meals built around protein, fat, and fiber for, again, stable blood sugar. These are all going to dramatically improve your insulin sensitivity over time. Um, and that's going to be like the number one dial mover when it comes to resetting your body set weight. Guys, I need another sip of my water. I love some salty water in the morning. I don't know if that's weird, but I start my day with 32 ounces of water with an electrolyte packet. And it's like a treat in the morning because it's just like part of my morning ritual. Anyway, number two, the second thing we can do here to help improve our body set weight. And we have to improve our satiety signaling. Okay. And what this means is we have to eat nutrient dense foods, foods that aren't engineered to like jack up our and like mess with our hunger and our dopamine signaling in our brain because like I've done a podcast in the past. I should do another one on ultra processed foods and like how they're actually like there's scientists in a lab developing these what I should call food-like products because they're not actually food. They're engineered experiments that are created to make you like obsessed and overeat these foods. Um, so we have to improve our satiety signaling, right? We got to get away from these foods that hijack our satiety signals. And what this means is we got to eat real, whole, nutrient-dense foods. We have to get enough protein. We got to get enough macronutrients, fiber, healthy fats. We have to eat foods that promote stable blood sugar, because the reality is that many people are overfed, like they have like way too many calories, but they're undernourished nutritionally, and you're never gonna reset your body set weight if you're living in that reality, right? Number three, guys, you're gonna be shocked to hear it. I know we gotta prioritize sleep. Sleep deprivation is one of the fastest ways to dysregulate your hunger hormones. And actually, I forgot to tell you guys when I was giving my little life update this week, but sleep has been hard. The end of pregnancy, you don't sleep, and then you have a baby, and then you don't sleep. And sleep is just, as we've talked about over ad nauseum in this podcast, is like just the bedrock of healthy weight loss, healthy weight, like health, feeling good. And so I just like feel like I hadn't like slept good for 6 months. Well, uh we had done a little sleep training where I went and I slept in the office. My husband was in our room and our son is actually sleeping in our walk-in closet. But I like cannot sleep if he is crying. And we do the cried out method. I know it's controversial these days, but it's worked for us. And sleep, like I do not function as a human without sleep. And so we got to sleep. Anyway, where was I? So we did a little bit of sleep training. Uh, it worked. I like went and slept in the office in our pull-out bed. He was doing pretty good, but then 4 months hit and like he regressed and he was getting up multiple times a night. And I was just really struggling like a week and a half ago. And my husband was like, okay, you go sleep in the office again. I'll sleep in here. And, you guys, this week I have slept. It's felt like magic. I have slept so hard. The first night I slept in the office, I fell asleep on my back and I think I didn't move for 7 hours. And I woke up so stiff from just like being immobilized for that long. But like I was so stiff, but I felt like so rejuvenated after some like real good sleep. And so all that to say, like this last week I have been sleeping in the office and it has like I told my husband, I was like, I feel like a different person because, like starting a weight loss journey is hard, but then like add on top of that, not getting good sleep, it's just like makes it so much harder. And that's why we got to prioritize sleep. So hopefully you guys know this by now if you've been listening to this podcast for any amount of time, but sleep deprivation is one of like the fastest ways to dysregulate your hunger hormones, because it increases your ghrelin, it decreases your leptin sensitivity, it increases insulin resistance, it raises your cortisol, which jacks up your blood sugar. It increases cravings for highly palatable foods like snacky, ultra processed foods. And so you got to prioritize sleep. I would say that's like the third thing. Number four is managing stress, because let's be real. If you've ever experienced chronic stress, for most people, sometimes chronic stress for people makes them like stop eating. But I would say for most people, chronic stress like changes their eating behavior in a way that they like are constantly eating, like they're dealing with a lot of cravings. They're like trying to like comfort eat, right? And what that does is it changes the stress, changes your insulin sensitivity, it changes your cravings, and it has effects on your nervous system. And it's just like so much harder to make the right choices when you feel like your stress is elevated, especially chronically. Number five of six, when it comes to resetting your body fat thermostat, is you got to build muscle. Ladies and gentlemen, muscle is super important. You want to feel good, you want to look good, you want to age well, you have to have muscle. And that is actually probably one of my biggest bones to pick with GLP-1s. I think many people they don't do it right, which they're not building muscle, they're not preserving their muscle and building muscle while they, use these medications, and it's setting them up for long-term failure. And so what you have to understand is muscle is incredibly metabolically protective. It improves your glucose disposal. It improves your insulin sensitivity. It increases metabolic flexibility. And it increases your overall energy demand. And this is one of the reasons why I'm constantly encouraging women, you got to strength train, not just for aesthetics, but if you want like that toned look, you got to build some muscles, ladies, or you're just going to look skinny, right? If you want that like sleek kind of like toned aesthetic, you got to get in the gym, you got to strength train. You're not going to end up looking like a man. Like it is so hard for a woman to put on enough muscle to like look manly. If you ever see that, like those are girls who are in the gym for hours a day eating obscene amounts of protein. Sometimes they're even like taking other things, but it's not going to happen to you on accident. Like you would notice long before you got there what was happening, and it would take years of trying. So anyway, that's another tangent. And then finally, guys, when it comes to resetting your body set weight, I think it's really important that we stop living in extremes, right? We don't want to do extreme restriction. We don't want to do extreme overconsumption. We don't want to, give in like to that guilt and all or nothing thinking, because our body responds incredibly well to consistency. Like I was saying earlier on my own journey, I just need to wake up every day and start doing the things that I know are going to get me to where I want to go. It's like not sexy. It's not exciting. It's kind of boring, but it's just showing up every day and doing those things. And that over the long term, if you're getting your insulin under control, if you're eating real whole foods, you're managing your sleep and your stress, building muscle, that is going to reset your body set weight in a really powerful way. And it's going to make maintaining a lower weight so much easier. And, I want to acknowledge the emotional sides of things as well, because, I think so many people carry shame around their body. Like I even struggle with like shame around my body, having gained 50 pounds. I'm a nutrition coach. Like, how do you gain 50 pounds when you're pregnant? It's like, well, that's a great question. Part of me is like, I don't even know how I gained so much weight. Because I was active and I was eating healthy, and, life just had other plans. And so I want to acknowledge like the shame around how we feel about our body, because I think that is also so important. It's so easy to think like, what's wrong with me? Like, why can't I stay disciplined? Why do I always regain the weight? And, honestly, I think a lot of people have been using strategies, like I said earlier, that are just like biologically setting them up for failure. And again, I want to say this because I think it's so important that like this doesn't mean that your body's broken in some way, right? It just means that we need a better understanding of how the body works. And once we have that understanding, we can like work hand in hand with our body to lose weight in a way that's actually going to work long term. And real sustainable weight loss usually requires, things like some identity change, which honestly I think is harder than like the brass tacks of showing up every day and like doing it fast or eating like real whole foods. There's things about our identity and our thinking we have to change. There's nervous system regulation that we got to get under control. There's habits that have to change. We have to sometimes change our environment, like in our house and maybe the people we spend time with. And there's improvements that need to be made in our metabolic health. And then there's emotional healing around food that needs to take place because many of us are holding on to beliefs about food, about ourselves, about who we are, what food says about us. And all of these things play into our process in a really big way. And I say to my clients all the time, this is like so much bigger than calories, weight losses. And I would say, within my course, I talk about all of these different things, identity change, habits, all of that. But I would say when I work with clients one-on-one, I would say that's really when we kind of get into the nitty-gritty of these different topics that, are beyond just like showing up and like eating the right foods at the right times. Because food is just like something that's so integrated into our life. And, I think especially when we have a lot of dysregulation around food, I'm trying to, how do I say this? Like people say, I think it's easier for like an alcoholic to get help, right? If someone has like an issue with drinking, they can just be like, "Oh, I'm not going to drink alcohol anymore." And if someone's like, "Oh, like you want to drink?" You're like, "No, I don't like, I'm an alcoholic or something." No one is ever going to be like, "Oh, well, you should just have one." Like, don't be crazy about your diet. Like, just have a drink. It's not a big deal. Literally, no one's going to do that to you if you tell someone you're an alcoholic. But if you tell someone like, "Oh, like, I'm gonna like not gonna have the pizza or something," or like I'm fasting, I'm doing this for my health or whatever, you get so much. People are like, "Oh, why are you starving yourself?" Like, "Oh, why are you like being crazy and, not eating gluten? Like you're not allergic to it. Like, what's the problem?" And I think, well, a lot of it also is like people project their own self things onto us. And, this is a whole nother topic, but, it was really sad. I was having a conversation with a friend not too long ago, and they had been having some issues with their thyroid not working properly and they're not at a point where they're like a diagnosable level of like needing medication for thyroid dysfunction, but it's like evident that there's thyroid dysfunction based on all of the symptoms. And this person, and you guys, this is a tale as old as time. I've been doing this for 10 years, and this is like the millionth, not millionth, that's an exaggeration, but I hear this story, same story over and over and over again. This person took out like gluten, dairy, and sugar from their diet, and they started to feel really, really good. But then they had people in their life who were like, "Why are you doing that? Like, you're not allergic. Is it really going to make that big of a difference if you eat like wheat?" And this person started eating these things again because of like this like social pressure of these people in their lives not supporting them, right? And now they feel horrible again. And so I share that to say like that is so common, and that is like a huge roadblock for people achieving their best health and losing weight and staying healthy. And so I actually want to challenge you because we can't change other people, right? We can only change ourselves. If you are listening to this and if you can ever think back to a time where you like criticize someone for trying to improve their health, even if you don't totally agree with the method, as long as it's not dangerous, like you need to keep your mouth shut, right? We all need to keep our mouth shut, and we just need to encourage people because it's hard to make changes like this. And people need our support. And that's how I think we truly show people we love them. Anyway, sorry, soapbox a little bit there, but it just really bothers me. And so I want to leave you guys with some like practical steps to get started today. Hopefully, like you have like a better understanding of how your body works and what to do. But I'm just going to kind of summarize what we kind of talked about is we got to improve our metabolism, right? And lower our body set weight over time. And that happens by starting to reduce how frequently we're eating. So number one, if people are like, I don't know if I'm ready to start fasting, I'd say just stop snacking. Drop the snacks. Build your meals around protein, fat, and fiber. Get really good sleep on a really consistent schedule. Walk after your meals. Start strength training. Build some muscle. Reduce your intake of ultra processed foods. If you can, just like cut them out, like get them out of your house at least. And then slowly start fasting, so whether that's like a 16-8, like a 16-hour fast with an 8-hour eating window, maybe you do a 24-hour fast, which is like dinner to dinner, you skip breakfast and lunch. Start slow and, build from there. And remember that small repeated actions over time are really what's going to change your body's it's really going to change like your body's physiology and like how your body responds to different things, how you feel, how you look. Because at the end of the day, guys, your body's always adapting. And I think a good question to keep in mind is what are you training your body to adapt to, right? Crash dieting, constant restriction, constant blood sugar spikes. Are we training our body to adapt to constant blood sugar spikes? Or are we training it to adapt to stability, right? Consistently, metabolic flexibility with fasting, going between glucose and fatty acids for energy. Are we training it to adapt to healing? Because at the end of the day, our body doesn't need more like punishment of like grinding it down. What it needs is a lifestyle that your body can actually thrive in long term. And, friends, that is exactly what I hope this podcast has helped you build if you've been a listener for a while. And with that, guys, I just want to remind you, if this episode has encouraged you in any way, maybe if it's taught you something new, I would love it if you would share it with a friend, if you left a review, if you subscribed. All of these things would truly help me out and bless me. Also connect with me over on Instagram or Facebook at Hope Coaching. I love to hear from you guys. I love when you send me messages. And if you want to help, if you want help implementing these principles into your life, come join us over in my course, Lifestyle School for Weight Loss, or reach out for personalized coaching. I do have some spots open. With that, guys, thank you so much for being here. I will see you guys next time on the Lifestyle School podcast.